The vanishing armadas. The chamber stretched vast and hollow beneath crystalline domes that revealed the swirling nebula beyond. Hundreds of council members from across the known galaxies sat in ascending rows, their forms diverse. Some gaseous, others crystalline, many flesh-based like the humanoids who dominated trade routes. But today every delegate shared one expression: unease. Admiral Vorik stood at the center podium, his muscular frame encased in ceremonial armor that gleamed under the artificial suns. His species, the Krell, had conquered 70 star systems through calculated brutality. His ridge-crowned head held high, he addressed the assembly with practiced authority. Honored Council. His voice resonated through translation matrices. I request command of the 9th Expeditionary Force. Earth must be investigated, cataloged, and brought into compliance. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. One, a vapor being from the outer reaches, simply dissolved and reformed near an exit. From the upper tier, Councillor Meredith rose slowly. Her ancient frame moved with deliberate care, each step measured by centuries of experience. She had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, watched stars die and new ones ignite. Her species, the witnessing ones, lived for millennia, accumulating wisdom that younger races often dismissed. Admiral Vorik. Her voice carried a weight that silenced the murmurs. 16 fleets have ventured to that blue world. 16 armadas, each commanded by officers as confident as you, each equipped with weapons capable of shattering moons. None returned. Not a single vessel. Not a transmission. Not even debris. Vorik's jaw tightened. With respect, Counselor, those commanders clearly lacked proper tactical assessment. The Krell do not fail. Every race believes itself exceptional, Meredith replied, her three eyes fixed on him. The Zarathians thought their size made them invincible. The Techno-Collective believed their networked intelligence supreme. The Flame Legions assumed their plasma weapons unstoppable. All vanished. Captain Thane, Vorik's second-in-command, spoke from his position near the chamber entrance. His scarred features and missing arm testified to battles survived through cunning, rather than confidence. Perhaps the counselor sees patterns where only coincidence exists. Space is vast. Ships are lost to natural phenomena. Black holes, quantum storms, stellar collapse. Natural phenomena leave evidence, Meredith countered. Earth leaves only absence. The last transmission from Commander Zelith's fleet came 80 cycles ago. One word repeated across all channels. Watching. Then silence. Vorik straightened. Ghost stories do not concern the Krell. I have personally led campaigns against the Plague Worlds, survived the Crystal Wars, broken the siege of Terminus 9. This primitive planet poses no threat that technology and tactics cannot overcome. You speak of threats you could see, Meredith warned. Earth is not what you imagine. The humans there, they have never attacked a single colony, never declared war, never even acknowledged our existence officially. Yet every force sent to their world disappears completely. This is not the behavior of primitives. This is the behavior of something that needs no weapons because it has already won. The chamber fell silent. Even Vorik felt a chill trace his spine, though pride masked his reaction. Another delegate, Security Administrator Plex, interjected from his floating platform. The Council cannot be governed by fear. If Earth presents a threat, we must understand it. If it does not, we must establish protocols. Admiral Vorik's proposal has merit. Meredith's shoulders sagged slightly. She had lived through this debate 16 times before. Always the same confidence. Always the same dismissal of wisdom for action. Then I cannot stop you, she said quietly. But know this, Admiral, Earth does not fight. It does not need to. It simply waits. And when you arrive, you will understand why silence is the most terrifying weapon in the universe. Vorik bowed curtly. Then I shall return with answers, Counselor. The 9th Fleet departs within 3 cycles. As the assembly dissolved, Captain Thane approached his commander. Sir, perhaps we should consider additional precautions. Enhanced shielding, automated drones for initial reconnaissance. Thane, Vorik cut him off. Fear is a disease. If the Council sees us hesitate, they see us weak. We go in strength or we do not go at all. But that night in his private quarters aboard the flagship Retribution, Vorik stood before the star maps. Earth glowed blue and green on the holographic display, small, isolated, seemingly defenseless. Around it, 16 red markers indicated the last known positions of vanished fleets. 16 perfect circles, each centered on the planet. No debris fields expanding outward. No energy signatures from battles. Just circles of emptiness as if the ships had been carefully erased from reality itself. Vorik's hand trembled slightly as he reached toward the image. Tomorrow he would be surrounded by his crew's admiration and the Council's expectations. But tonight, alone with the data, doubt whispered through his mind like cold wind through a tomb. "What are you?" he murmured to the silent planet. Earth offered no answer. It never did. Outside his viewport, the stars burned cold and distant, and somewhere in that vast darkness, a blue world waited with infinite patience for the 9th Fleet to arrive. The blue silence, the 9th Fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of steel locusts. 2,000 warships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls bristling with weapons that could vaporize continents. Admiral Vorik stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching Earth grow larger on the main view screen. It looked exactly as the records showed. Oceans of deep blue, continents wrapped in green and brown, white clouds drifting peacefully. From this distance it seemed fragile, like a jewel that might shatter at the slightest touch. "All ships report ready status," Lieutenant Kessa announced from her station. She was young for her rank, her violet skin marked with the honor scars of the Krell Military Academy. Her fingers danced across holographic controls with practiced efficiency. Weapons systems charged, boarding parties assembled, occupation protocols loaded. Vorik nodded. "Begin standard reconnaissance sweep. I want full spectrum analysis. Energy signatures, communications traffic, defensive installations, everything." The fleet's sensors swept across Earth like invisible fingers probing every secret. Minutes passed. Then the first anomaly appeared. "Admiral," Kessa's voice carried a note of confusion, "the readings are inconsistent. The planet's electromagnetic field is fluctuating in patterns I've never encountered. It's almost as if what, Lieutenant? As if something is interfering with our scans, deliberately masking what's below." Captain Thane moved to stand beside Vorik. "Perhaps they have more advanced technology than we assumed." "Perhaps." Vorik studied the display. "Deploy Scout Wing. Send pilot Jareth and his team for close atmospheric reconnaissance." Jareth received the order with characteristic nonchalance. The veteran pilot had flown through ion storms and asteroid fields that would terrify lesser warriors. As his squadron of 12 fighters detached from the fleet and dove toward Earth's atmosphere, he felt only anticipation. The entry was smooth, too smooth. No defensive fire, no intercepting craft, no warning signals. The fighters cut through clouds and emerged over a sprawling city. Towers of glass and steel. Vehicles moving along organized roads. Millions of humans going about their daily existence. "Command, this is Jareth. Visual confirmation of major population center. No military presence visible. No anti-aircraft emplacements, nothing." He circled lower, his fighter's shadow racing across buildings. "They're not even looking up. It's like they don't see us." On the Retribution, Vorik frowned. "They must see you. Your fighters are hardly invisible." "Sir, I'm passing directly over what appears to be a government complex. Humans are walking in and out of buildings. Some are pointing at us, but they're not running. They're not panicking. They're just watching." Kessa pulled up visual feeds from Jareth's squadron. The Admiral watched as humans in the streets below looked up at the alien fighters with expressions ranging from curiosity to something else. Something that looked unsettlingly like pity. "Jareth, expand your sweep. Find their military installations, their command centers." The pilot complied, his squadron spreading across the continent. They flew over cities, towns, agricultural regions, industrial complexes. Everywhere the pattern repeated. Humans saw them, acknowledged them, but showed no fear. After an hour, Jareth's report crackled through. "Admiral, this makes no sense. We've identified what might be military bases, but they're not on alert. We've seen no fighters scramble, no missiles prepared. It's as if..." His voice faltered. "As if what?" "As if they're waiting for something. Like they know what's going to happen and they're just waiting for it to begin." Back on the bridge, an alarm chimed softly. Kessa checked her console, her eyes widening. "Admiral, power fluctuation in Reactor 3. Also Reactors 7, 12, and 19 across the fleet. Engineering reports no cause. The systems are simply losing efficiency." "Compensate from reserves," Vorik ordered. "Already done, sir, but the drain is continuing." "It's not a malfunction. Something is pulling energy away from our systems." Thane's scarred face tightened. Like a weapon? No, sir. There's no beam, no projectile, no detectable attack. The power is just leaving. Vorik's hands clenched behind his back. Open a channel to Earth. All frequencies. The communication systems blazed to life, broadcasting across every possible wavelength. Vorik's image and voice transmitted to every human device capable of receiving it. Attention. Planet Earth. This is Admiral Vorik of the Krell Empire, commanding the 9th Expeditionary Fleet. Your world is surrounded. We do not wish unnecessary violence. Establish communication with your governing authorities immediately, or we will consider you hostile. The transmission echoed across Earth, through satellites, through networks, through the air itself. In cities worldwide, humans paused to listen. Then they simply continued with their lives. Silence, answered Vorik. Long, absolute silence. No response, Admiral. Kessa reported after 10 minutes. They received the transmission. Our monitors confirm it reached millions of devices, but no official response. Then send it again. Stronger. Again, Vorik's message boomed across Earth. Again, silence. Jareth's voice interrupted. Command, requesting permission to return to the fleet. My instruments are acting strangely. Navigation system showing impossible readings, and static crackled through the line. Something in the clouds. I swear I saw the transmission cut off. Jareth, report. Vorik snapped static. Then Jareth's voice returned, strained. Sorry, sir. Thought I saw nothing. Must be instrument glitch. But I recommend we return. This place feels wrong. As the scout fighters climbed back toward the fleet, more systems began failing. Lights flickered across the retribution. Backup systems engaged automatically. Engineering teams scrambled to identify the source of the cascading malfunctions. Kessa's console erupted with alerts. Admiral, 60% of the fleet reporting power anomalies. Weapons systems dropping to minimal charge. Life support still stable but showing strain. And she paused, her violet skin paling. Sir, the stars. What about them? Look, Vorik turned to the main viewport. The familiar constellations that had guided them here were fading. One by one, stars dimmed and disappeared until the space around Earth was surrounded by absolute darkness. Only the blue planet remained visible, glowing softly against the void. This is impossible, Thane whispered. Then, through every speaker on every ship, a voice emerged. Not transmitted through normal channels, it simply existed in the air, in the walls. Everywhere at once, a human voice, calm, patient, inevitable. You should not have come here. The words carried no anger, no threat. They were stated as simple fact, like observing that fire burns or water flows downward. Vorik felt ice trace his spine. Around him, his bridge crew froze, their confidence crumbling. Below them, Earth continued its slow rotation, beautiful and serene, while the darkness pressed closer and the mysterious voice whispered again through the void. You should not have come here. The awakening. The fleet drifted helplessly in the unnatural darkness. Admiral Vorik had faced enemy armadas, navigated through stellar anomalies, survived assassination attempts. But this silent, invisible assault on reality itself shook him in ways battle never had. Establish communication protocols, he commanded, fighting to keep his voice steady. If they can speak to us, we can speak to them. Lieutenant Kessa worked frantically at her console. Sir, I'm opening all channels. Transmitting on every frequency. She paused. Admiral, we're receiving an incoming signal. It's an invitation. An invitation? Coordinates on Earth's surface. A location where they say we can send representatives for direct communication. Captain Thane stepped forward. Obviously a trap. Perhaps, Vorik agreed. But we're already trapped, are we not? At least this offers answers. He turned to Kessa. Prepare a shuttle. I'll go myself. Sir, I must protest. Your protest is noted, Captain. But I will not hide behind my fleet while demanding others take risks. Vorik straightened his armor. Besides, if they wanted us dead, we would already be ghosts floating in this void. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, landing in an empty field outside a modest facility that looked more like a research station than a military installation. No weapons guarded it. No soldiers waited. Just two humans standing calmly beside the entrance. Vorik emerged with a small security detail. The planet's gravity felt comfortable, its air breathable. Everything seemed so normal. yet the hairs on his neck stood rigid with primal warning. One of the humans stepped forward. A woman in her 40s with dark hair pulled into a practical bun, wearing a simple white coat. "Admiral Vorik, welcome to Earth. I'm Dr. Natasha Reed." She gestured to the man beside her. "This is Marcus Joe, our diplomatic liaison." Marcus was younger, perhaps 30, with thoughtful eyes and an easy smile that somehow made the terrifying situation feel almost casual. "We apologize for the dramatic reception. Earth has unique security protocols." Vorik's guards tensed, weapons ready. "You've disabled my fleet, trapped us in darkness, threatened us with voices from nowhere. Now you offer pleasantries?" "We haven't threatened you," Natasha said gently. "We've simply stopped you from threatening us. There's a difference. I could order my ships to fire on your cities right now." "You could try," Marcus replied, still smiling. "But your weapons won't function. Not here. Not while Earth decides otherwise." Vorik studied them. No fear, no bravado, just calm certainty. Like parents explaining obvious truths to a confused child. "What are you?" "Your technology surpasses anything in the known galaxies, yet you hide here, pretending to be primitive." "We don't pretend anything," Natasha said. "We simply exist, and we prefer to be left alone." She gestured toward the facility. "Please come inside. We have much to discuss and your crew is probably frightened. The sooner we finish, the sooner they can return home." Inside, the facility was surprisingly comfortable. Soft lighting, furnished rooms, even refreshments arranged on a table. Marcus poured water into glasses with steady hands while Natasha activated a holographic display. "Earth is old, Admiral," she began. "Older than your records show. Before your empires rose, before the great councils formed, humans were here. We evolved, we fought, we learned, and we discovered something." The hologram showed Earth rotating slowly, then other images, ancient structures, mysterious artifacts, symbols that seemed to shift and change as Vorik watched them. "We are not alone in our bodies," Marcus said quietly. "Every human carries within them connections to everyone who came before. Our ancestors, their knowledge, their consciousness, it never truly dies. It accumulates generation after generation, building into something greater." "Impossible," Vorik breathed. "Is it?" Natasha leaned forward. "You've seen the disappeared fleets. Where do you think they went?" The Admiral felt cold dread pool in his stomach. "You absorbed them. Earth absorbed them," Marcus corrected. "When aggression is directed at our world, our planet responds. The collective consciousness of humanity, living and dead, manifests as defense. Those who come with violence become part of what they tried to destroy." Natasha's expression softened. "We don't enjoy it, Admiral. Each absorbed soul adds their pain to ours. We feel their fear, their regret. But we learned long ago that mercy toward invaders only invites more invasion." As they spoke, Marcus moved closer to Natasha, their shoulders nearly touching. There was an intimacy in their proximity that spoke of deep trust. When their eyes met briefly, something unspoken passed between them. Understanding, affection, perhaps more. Vorik noticed the connection. "You two. We've worked together for 8 years, Natasha said, and her voice carried warmth it hadn't held before. "Marcus was a soldier before becoming a diplomat. I was researching Earth's defensive phenomena. We've spent countless nights studying the patterns, trying to understand what humanity has become, and in that time..." She glanced at Marcus, a soft smile touching her lips. "We found more than answers." Marcus took her hand gently. "Natasha sees the science. I see the souls. Together we've tried to find ways to warn others away without violence, but the galaxy rarely listens to warnings." Vorik watched their intertwined fingers. Even facing a hostile alien admiral, they found comfort in each other. It was so human, so fragile, yet somehow that fragility seemed stronger than his entire fleet. "Why tell me this?" he asked. "Why not simply destroy us?" "Because you listened," Natasha said. "You came down here. You're trying to understand. That gives us hope." She released Marcus's hand and approached Vorik. "Your fleet can leave, Admiral. Return to your empire. Tell them what you learned. Tell them Earth is not a prize to be claimed but a warning to be heeded. And if I refuse, if I insist on conquest..." Marcus's smile faded. "Then you won't leave. None of your crew will. You'll join the voices in the darkness, adding your warnings to those who came before. And 16 cycles from now, another fleet will arrive and we'll have this conversation again." Above them, thunder rumbled despite the clear sky. The building trembled slightly. The collective is stirring, Natasha said softly. You should decide quickly, Admiral. Once it fully awakens, even we cannot stop what happens next. Vorik looked between them. These two humans who somehow commanded forces beyond comprehension, yet stood holding hands like young lovers. The contradiction was staggering. I need proof, he said finally. Something to show the Council. Otherwise they'll call me a coward and send another fleet. Natasha and Marcus exchanged glances. A wordless conversation passed between them, built on years of partnership and something deeper. Finally Marcus nodded. Then you shall have your proof, Natasha said. But I warn you, what you're about to witness will haunt you for the rest of your life. The Harvest Natasha led them to a lower level of the facility, down corridors that seemed to stretch deeper than should be physically possible. The walls here were different, older, covered in symbols that glowed faintly with their own light. Marcus walked beside her, his hand occasionally brushing hers, a small gesture of reassurance in the growing darkness. These passages existed before our modern civilization, Marcus explained as they descended. We built the facility around them, not truly understanding what they were until recently. What are they? Vorik asked, his guards clustering closer together. Conduits, Natasha replied. Connections between the living world and what we call the collective. The accumulated consciousness of every human who ever lived, merged with Earth itself. They entered a vast chamber. The ceiling soared upward into darkness that defied their portable lights. In the center, a pool of liquid that wasn't quite water rippled with colors that had no names. The air hummed with energy that made Vorik's skin prickle. This is one of Earth's hearts, Natasha said quietly. There are 7 scattered across the planet. They're what makes us unique, what gives humanity its ultimate defense. Marcus approached the pool's edge. Admiral, you asked for proof. Watch. He touched the surface. Ripples spread outward, and suddenly the chamber filled with images, ghostly projections of alien ships from dozens of different species. Vorik recognized some. Zorathian dreadnoughts, techno-collective spheres, the Flame Legion's crystalline carriers, the disappeared fleets, he whispered. Not disappeared, Marcus corrected. Transformed. The projections shifted. Now they showed the final moments, not from external views but from inside the doomed vessels. Vorik watched as spectral human figures walked through solid walls. He saw alien soldiers fire weapons that passed harmlessly through the apparitions. He witnessed crews dissolving into light, their screams adding to an endless chorus of voices. Every aggressive force that came to Earth joins the collective, Natasha explained. Their consciousness, their memories, everything they were becomes part of humanity's defense. They wanted to conquer us. Instead, they became us. One image froze. A Krell commander, perhaps from 2 centuries ago, reaching toward one of the spectral forms. The resemblance to Vorik was striking. Same ridge-crowned head, same ceremonial armor. That's General Morvok, Vorik breathed. He disappeared investigating Earth during the second expansion. He was a hero of my people. We thought he died gloriously in battle. He did die, Marcus said gently, but not gloriously. He died terrified, confused. And then he joined the voices that protect this world. Above them, in orbit, the harvest had begun. Lieutenant Kessa screamed as the first spectral figure materialized on the Retribution's bridge. It looked human. A woman in ancient military uniform, her eyes glowing with pale light. She didn't attack. She simply stood there watching as more figures appeared throughout the ship. Security to the bridge, Captain Thane roared. We have intruders. But weapons fire proved useless. Plasma bolts passed through the figures like they were smoke. When soldiers tried to physically tackle them, their hands grasped only air. Then the touching began. A spectral hand reached toward a young engineer. When contact came, the engineer froze, eyes wide. His body began to glow, edges blurring, substance fading. His scream rose in pitch until it became musical, a note joining an endless symphony of voices. Within seconds, only his uniform remained, collapsing empty to the floor. Fall back, Thane commanded. Everyone retreat but there was nowhere to retreat. The figures appeared everywhere, moving through sealed bulkheads, emerging from walls, rising through floors. The harvest spread through the fleet like a plague of ghosts. Kessa backed against her console, trembling as a spectral child approached her. The girl looked no older than 10, wearing clothes from centuries past. She reached out with translucent fingers. "Please," Kessa whispered. "I'm just following orders." "I never wanted to hurt anyone." The child's voice was gentle, almost kind. "Neither did we. But you came anyway." As the small hand touched Kessa's chest, the lieutenant felt her thoughts scatter. Memories bloomed and faded. Her childhood, her academy training, her first command, her pride at serving under Admiral Vorik. All of it unspooled like thread from a spool. But there was no pain. Only a strange, cold peace. She felt herself spreading thin, her consciousness expanding to touch thousands of others. She heard their voices, their stories, their regrets, and she understood finally what Earth truly was. A prison made of souls, a defense built from invaders, a warning written in the dissolved essence of those who refused to listen. Her last coherent thought before joining the collective was simple. We should not have come. Back in the chamber, Vorik watched the images with growing horror. His fleet was being systematically erased. Not destroyed, worse. His people were being unmade and absorbed, their essence harvested to strengthen the very defense they'd tried to breach. "Stop this," he roared. "I surrender. Call them off." Natasha's expression filled with genuine sorrow. "I'm sorry, Admiral. Once the collective awakens, it completes its task. We warned you. We tried to make you understand before it was too late." Marcus moved to stand beside her, taking her hand again. Despite the horror unfolding above, their connection remained. A small island of humanity in the storm. "There is one possibility," Marcus said quietly, looking at Natasha. "We could try to intercede together." She met his eyes. "It's dangerous. The collective doesn't always distinguish between friend and enemy when it's fully manifested." "I know." He squeezed her hand. "But we have to try. We can't just watch them all die even if they came with violence." Natasha nodded slowly. "Together, then." They approached the pool, still holding hands. When they touched the surface, their forms began to glow. Vorik watched as they seemed to merge partially with the liquid, becoming conduits between the physical world and the collective. Their voices echoed through the chamber, not speaking to Vorik, but to something vast and ancient enough. They understand now. The lesson is learned. For a long moment, nothing changed. Then gradually, the spectral figures aboard the fleet began to fade. The harvest slowed, then stopped, but the damage was done. 3/4 of Vorik's fleet was already gone. Only a few hundred ships remained, their crews traumatized, their systems barely functional. Natasha and Marcus separated from the pool, gasping for breath. They leaned on each other, exhausted. "Your remaining ships can leave," Natasha said to Vorik. "But know this, Earth will remember you. The collective will remember. If your people return, there will be no more warnings, no more chances for communication. Only the harvest." A child's voice suddenly echoed through the chamber, clear, young, certain. A small boy, perhaps 7 years old, emerged from the shadows. His name was Thomas, and he looked at Vorik with eyes far older than his years. "Tell them," the boy said. "Tell the galaxy what happens when you attack Earth. Tell them about the silence that waits. Maybe then, finally, they'll learn to leave us alone." Vorik fell to his knees. The proud admiral who had commanded thousands, who had never shown weakness, broke under the weight of what he'd witnessed. "I'll tell them," he whispered. "I swear it." The eternal warning. 3 months had passed since the Ninth Fleet's retreat. Admiral Vorik stood once again before the Galactic Council, but he was a different being now. His armor bore no polish. His ridge-crowned head was lowered. His voice, once commanding, now carried the hollow echo of trauma. The council chamber was packed. Every delegate had heard rumors of the fleet's return, or rather of the tiny fraction that had returned. 200 ships from a force of 2,000. Most delegates expected excuses, perhaps claims of unprecedented natural disasters. What they received instead was truth. "Earth is not what we believed," Vorik began, his words careful, measured. "It is not primitive. It is not defenseless. It is something else, something ancient and terrible and absolute." He activated holographic displays showing the fleet's recordings, the spectral figures, the harvest, the dissolving of ships and crews into nothing. Many delegates turned away. Others watched in horrified fascination. "Every fleet sent to Earth has suffered the same fate," Vorik continued. "Not defeat in battle, but absorption. Their consciousness, their very essence, becomes part of Earth's defense. The humans call it the collective. I call it a living grave." Counselor Meredith sat in her usual place, her 3 eyes filled with sadness but no surprise. She had watched this scene play out 16 times before. 16 commanders returning broken, swearing Earth would never be threatened again. And yet empires always forgot. Pride always overcame wisdom. The Council must establish Earth as forbidden space, Vorik demanded. No ship, no probe, no communication attempts. We must leave them alone completely, or they will harvest us completely. A younger delegate, Ambassador Siros of the expanding Dominion, rose to speak. His species was new to the galactic stage, ambitious and dismissive of older civilizations' fears. With respect, Admiral, you lost a battle. That does not mean the war is unwinnable. Perhaps with different tactics, with proper preparation. There is no tactic. Vorik's voice cracked. There is no preparation. They don't fight with weapons or ships or strategies. They fight with the fundamental nature of reality itself. They turn your aggression against you, make it part of them. Every soldier you send makes them stronger. Every fleet you dispatch adds to their chorus of warning. But Vorik could see it in Siros's eyes, the same confidence he himself had felt months ago. The same certainty that his people would be the exception. Meredith spoke quietly. The warning will not be heeded. It never is. Then the galaxy is doomed to repeat this forever, Vorik said bitterly. Empire after empire, fleet after fleet, all feeding Earth's defense with their dissolved consciousness until the collective becomes so vast that... He trailed off, unable to complete the thought. On Earth, life continued as it always had. Dr. Natasha Reed and Marcus Joe walked through a park in Geneva, enjoying the autumn afternoon. Children played on swings nearby. Couples sat on benches. Birds sang in trees that had witnessed centuries of human existence. They held hands as they walked, the simple intimacy of two people who had faced cosmic horror together and found comfort in each other's presence. The Council is meeting about Vorik's report, Marcus said, checking his tablet. Intelligence suggests they'll establish Earth as a restricted zone. For how long? Natasha asked. A generation, 2? Eventually, someone will forget why the restriction exists. Someone will test it. I know. Marcus stopped walking, turning to face her. Tasha, do you ever wonder if we're doing the right thing? The collective is powerful, yes, but it's also terrible. We've become the thing that nightmares fear. She was quiet for a moment, considering. When I was young, I dreamed of humanity reaching the stars, joining the galactic community. Making friends among the cosmos. Her grip on his hand tightened. But then I studied the records. Every species that tried peaceful contact with others was eventually conquered. The galaxy doesn't reward kindness, Marcus. It rewards strength. So we became the strongest. No. She shook her head. We became something the strong fear to touch. There's a difference. A small boy, Thomas, the child who had spoken to Admiral Vorik, ran past them, chasing a ball. To anyone watching, he looked like a normal human child. But Natasha and Marcus knew better. Thomas had been born with an unusually strong connection to the collective. He could hear the voices of the absorbed, speak with their authority. He was one of several children like this, appearing more frequently with each generation. Evolution adapting humanity to its unique defense, Thomas retrieved his ball and waved at them before running back to other children. Normal. Innocent. Yet carrying within him the echoes of a million dissolved souls. Do you think we'll ever be free of it? Marcus asked quietly. The collective, I mean. Will humanity ever be able to just exist without this defense? Natasha leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. Maybe. If the galaxy leaves us alone long enough, maybe the collective will go dormant again. Maybe our descendants will live in a universe where Earth is just another planet. You don't believe that? No, she admitted. Someone always tests the boundaries. And when they do, they stood in silence, watching the park's peaceful scene. It was almost possible to forget the orbital monitors, the deep space sensors, the 7 hearts of Earth pulsing with accumulated consciousness below the surface. Almost. That evening, Natasha and Marcus shared dinner at their apartment overlooking Lake Geneva. The intimacy between them had deepened over the months since Vorik's visit. Working together to intercede with the collective had forged a bond beyond mere partnership. Stay tonight, Natasha said softly as they finished eating. It wasn't the first time, but each time felt significant. A choice to find joy and connection in a world defined by defense and isolation. Marcus smiled, reaching across the table to take her hand. Always. They moved to the balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. Somewhere above, invisible to the eye, Earth's satellites monitored the stars. Somewhere below, the collective stirred in its long dream. But here, in this moment, they were just two people finding warmth in each other's presence. If we ever have children, Marcus said thoughtfully, what kind of world will we give them? One that's safe because it's terrifying? One that's isolated because it's too dangerous to approach? We give them a world that survives, Natasha replied. Everything else is secondary to that. And maybe, if we're lucky, we give them love and hope and a reason to keep trying for something better. She kissed him gently. And in that kiss was all the complexity of being human in a hostile galaxy. The fear and the strength. The isolation and the connection. The terrible power and the fragile beauty of two hearts choosing each other. Far across the galaxy, Ambassador Siros was already assembling a fleet. Despite Vorik's warnings, despite the Council's restrictions, he believed his people would succeed where others failed. His advisors whispered plans. His engineers designed new weapons. His soldiers prepared for glory. And on Earth, the collective sensed the coming storm. It did not prepare. It did not need to. It simply waited as it had waited for millennia, as it would wait for millennia more. Counselor Meredith, in her chambers, whispered to herself what she had whispered 16 times before. They will not return. They never do. The cycle would continue. The warnings would be ignored. The harvest would claim more souls, and Earth would remain. Beautiful, terrible, eternal. In the park, Thomas looked up at the stars beginning to emerge in the darkening sky. He heard the voices, felt the vast presence of the collective stretching across his planet like an invisible shield. He thought of all the aliens who had come, all the ones who would come, all the voices they would add to the chorus. Why can't they just leave us alone? He asked the evening air. The collective answered not in words but in feelings. Ancient, resigned, sad. Because they forget. They always forget. That is why we remember for them. Thomas nodded, understanding beyond his years. He returned to playing with other children, their laughter echoing across the park as the first stars emerged above. On Earth, life continued. The galaxy watched with fearful eyes, and the silent guardians waited for the next lesson to begin.